The work of seafarers celebrated. Reliable electricity supply planned for Yangoru-Saussia District. And 4 finalists in the FIFA World Cup decided.
This is National EMTV News with Helen Sayer.
Good evening and thank you for joining me for Sunday's news. The work of seafarers in Papua New Guinea has been celebrated through a church service in Port Moresby today. Held at the St. John Anglican Church in downtown Port Moresby, the service was to honour seafarers' commitment in working long hours and travelling long distances to deliver goods all around the country.
The service, led by Bishop Denny from the Anglican Church, reminded seafarers and their families of how important the work of a seafarer is. The Bible readings, hymns and prayers, including the sermons, were dedicated to serving seafarers all over Papua New Guinea. Following the service, members of the police band led a parade to the Lancron Naval Base to continue the celebrations. A seafarer is a person who works on a ship. It may be a cargo ship, a naval ship, or any shipping vessel involved in the transportation of goods and services from ports to ports. In Papua New Guinea, there are close to 5,000 national seafarers serving in the maritime industry. Much of their career is spent away from their families, out at sea, delivering goods and services to other centers. On a global scale, there are 1.5 million seafarers in the world who contribute to building their country's economy. The International Seafarers Day is observed every year on June the 25th. But for the Anglican Church, the celebrations today coincides with the church programs on Sea Sunday. National seafarers who passed away were also remembered this morning by fellow seamen and women in the maritime industry. Thekla Gunga, National EMTV News.
Longtime teacher and journalist Robert Palma died last Thursday at the St. John's Hospital in Port Moresby. Palma, 53, of Karapia in the Tambul Nebilia district of the Western Highlands, complained of chest pains, rushed to the hospital. His condition deteriorated rapidly at the hospital despite attempts by medical staff to stabilize him and was shortly taken off life support. Palma was a secondary school teacher for 4 years before he attained his Bachelor of Journalism from UPNG in 1990. Palma is survived by children Elias, Jr. Robert, Carrie, Vanessa, Wane, Elias Jr., Ronica and wife Lydia. A community leader in Wingay in East Sepik's Yangoru District wants a high school built in the community. He expressed this during the opening of 3 new classrooms for Wingay Elementary School by local MP Richard Maru. Despite the call, MP Maru says the district will begin building the district's education infrastructure from the elementary level up.
In his recent visit to his constituency, the local MP visited the further inland of Yangoru to open classrooms for a remote community in East Sepik. The Wingay community witnessed the opening of classrooms costing 300,000 kina funded through the DSIP. The assistance to have proper classrooms is a first-time help.
We give him priority and walking road all over the place, front, back side, we try to open up, so we can see more teacher come now, teach. Mixing policy come to improve law and order so that environment law here, old man law come teach, now education must conducive.
However, a local community leader in Wingay says the elementary and primary schools have been producing students with high grades and a high school must be built.
Number two, something, me like asking you, and what's him? Me like him, but you give me one high school. Wingay primary school, I'm scoring big number of high school.
Responding, MP Maru says the intention is relevant. However, the district plans to build and support the education sector, beginning with elementary. On a national level, the local MP says government is no longer concerned with free education, but quality education.
So now this last 5 years, government is not talking about education. We are talking about free, quality education. Not on total education more. Talk about quality. Quality meaning also, all beginning must bright next to good marks. That's what it is. You don't see good marks, you don't have a future.
A mother says the new classroom will have an effect in children's learning. Jack Lapave Jr., National MTV News.
Meanwhile, the Yangoru-Saussia MP says a reliable electricity supply is needed in the district. MP Maro says the multi-million cocoa project, hatchery and other key government projects will only be functional if a proper power supply is built. He says the district is opening dialogue and an electricity project will be established.
So you will pray that you will find one solution where you may yet must get power supply system, but you may yet the district and much more reliable than Vivek. Apart from our schools, we have a very important project start long Paragmo. Kamani put the equity 10 million finish next week. Last 5 million. We are about, the Israelis are about to land here. But start Tamblo now. You will become people start the project. Start project by in the next 12 months and by requiring big power straight.
Still in Yangoru-Saussia, communities in Baimura village will now access proper water supply and sanitation services thanks to the WASH policy project currently implemented under the National Planning Department in partnership with Oxfam and the Australian government. Yangoru-Saussia MP Richard Maru says neighbouring villages will benefit in this year's funding allocation.
Development partners in the WASH policy initiative gathered in Baimuru to witness the commissioning of the water and sanitation project. This is the 4th year the program is running in the Yangoru-Saussia District in East Sepik. MP Richard Maru says other villages are catered for in the 2018 budget allocation.
So you Marango, you Oligo, you said, you do come by same thing, I'm happy to announce today in the budget we have allocated a further 300,000 for new projects. And on top from Cameroon. Every funding the last year, we're talking about this year.
Australian High Commissioner to PNG Bruce Davies commended the WASH policy initiative, stating relevant support will be given to improve people's lives. The Australian government is also a development partner in the project.
WASH is such a fundamental part of any country or any community's development. It is important that we find ways in which we can engage with you in a more substantive way throughout the country, responding to local initiatives and finding ways to make a difference in that.
Following the rollout of the WASH policy in Yangoru-Saussia District, the project developer says communities have been cooperative in taking ownership of the project.
But still there is a long way to go and our focus has always been basically looking at drinking water and sanitation facilities because both join together to see that people lead a healthy life.
The project involves proper sourcing and piping of clean water to households with tanks and taps installed in the community.
And it gives me great pleasure to do the slip. There we go. Hip it! Hooray! Hip it! Hooray!
Jack Lapave Jr., National MTV News.
You're at National MTV News. We'll have more coming up after these messages. Welcome back to the news. 9 community grants worth up to 100,000 kina were signed recently in Arwa in the autonomous region of Bougainville to support grassroots development projects. The grants will fund and support water and sanitation, road, child counselling and farming projects based in Central and South Bougainville. The projects are supported through Bougainville Community Grant Scheme, a partnership between the autonomous Bougainville government and Australia. Grants between 5,000 and 100,000 kina are available to groups and organizations across Bougainville to support community-driven development activities that promote peace and security. In November 2016, a total of 329 applications were received, with 60 projects selected so far by the scheme's committee and 30 currently under implementation. The broken Kubuna Bridge in Central Province was recently visited by Goilala MP William Sam and officials from Works Department. The bridge collapsed due to heavy rain in Central Province. The bridge is located in the Kuni LLG of Kairuku District and shares boundary with Goilala District. Locals told government officials the bridge is a key infrastructure and links thousands of people. Goilala MP William Sam, a member, says both Goilala and Kairuku District will collaborate with Works Department to build a new bridge.
Olba assist me to plan manual or give me plan advice. Na, by me plan come sina not you plan by talking me plan by me plan putting bridge hapo here or where? Ah, yeah. And then you plan give me this idea and then give me walking design below road na. Give me find how much and cost. Then you find money lo come walking the bridge. That bridge is important for us. Ogata. Yes. You plan by benefit lo ya me plan lo gola me plan by later. Yes.
Nearly 150 adventurers from Yangoru-Saussia Adventist Church attended a planned fun day at the nature park today. Different activities including Bible games were held, with the adventurers taking a sneak through the park. Parents, teachers and friends also attended.
As early as 9 a.m. this morning, the little adventurers of Yangoru-Saussia Adventist Church made their way with parents and other church members to Nature Park for the 2018 Fun Day. Organizers say the event is part of the church program where children ages 3 to 10 attend to learn more about the nature and God.
The God which we serve is a God who is a God of order. And the kids are learning these things, that will help them as they go along in life.
The fun day began with a walk in the park as the adventurers take a closer look on the wildlife in the park. It was a first time for many who learned a lot today and to be a step closer to the wildlife.
One of the important awards that we talked about today, we learned about the animals, how to take care of the animals, because most of the animals we have now have been endangered. And there are only a few of them, and it was good to come and learn, what we can do as individuals and as a group, to protect these animals, because, they are part of God's creation.
Parents also joined the teachers to see the day's event a success.
So this is one of the first times that we've actually taken the kids out of the normal activity place, which is church, and they're able to run around freely, exploring nature, and also physical activity. So I think the kids really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed it too.
Last but not the least, Bible games ended the day with food sharing among the participants. The next big event will be a 3-day camp outside Port Moresby later this year. Jack Lapave, Junior National, EMTV News.
Stories making headlines overseas. When we come back, stick around for the details. Welcome back to the news. Turning overseas, the operation to rescue 12 Thai children and their coach from a deep cave system is now underway. It started 3 hours ago, and after 2 weeks trapped underground, it's hoped the first of the children could be brought out as soon as 2 a.m. tonight.
Officials called it a war against water and time, and now the fight will be won or lost. After weeks of searching, preparing and hoping, the truest test of survival begins. The rescue attempt has finally started to save 12 boys and their football coach, trapped on a ledge in the Tam Luang cave.
Governor, can you just tell us, when do you think they'll be out?
If it's successful, when? We expect that the first one will be at
9 o'clock. 9 o'clock tonight? Tonight, yeah.
They'll come one by one, an 11-hour journey. The first could be free by 2 a.m. tonight. Media and volunteers were cleared from the cave site as medics and divers moved urgently in. 13 foreign divers and 5 more from Thailand will guide them through the flooded site. But despite days of round-the-clock pumping, all will have to dive to escape. Into the depths of freezing water, squeezing through spaces 40 centimetres wide. The maze has already claimed the life of a diver, but rescuers say it can be done. This volunteer Chinese diver has been going in every day for the past 10 days. He says they should be able to get them out, but there are still many obstacles. The journey begins with the biggest danger. Once they pass halfway, they can walk from there towards the arms of their grateful parents who finally have an end in sight. This father says he feels so much better than during the early days of the search, but he's still worried about how his son will get out safely. Before the rescue began, they wrote to their families, asking their parents not to worry and to prepare their favourite foods. This 11-year-old boy, known as Titan to his friends, told his family he can't wait to get KFC. The boys could finally get their wish, but the toughest ordeal still lies ahead.
At least 76 people are dead and another 97 are missing in Japan after torrential rain caused a series of flooding and landslides. Millions of people are now being ordered to evacuate.
It's been several decades since Western Japan has seen torrential rainfall of this magnitude. More than 50,000 rescuers from the police, fire service and defence force are now in action, plucking people from their homes, rooftops and from landslides as the death toll continues to rise.
I offer my deepest condolence to the victims and my sympathies to all people who have been affected.
Most of the deaths have been in the Hiroshima prefecture, but the deluge has been widespread. Nearly 5 million people have now been ordered to evacuate, with many of the dead those who ignored warnings, either swept away in fast-flowing floods or buried alive by mud. Authorities say the downpours are only set to intensify.
Heavy rain will continue in the area from western to eastern Japan, and it will be historic torrential rainfall, which could be the heaviest rain ever recorded.
With swathes of the country buried beneath water, hundreds of homes have been destroyed and infrastructure has buckled. The relentless conditions only further hampering the search for the dozens who remain missing.
Firefighters are battling more than 60 huge wildfires in America's western states. The largest and most destructive is just outside of Santa Barbara in California. That blaze has forced thousands from their homes and destroyed an entire neighborhood and is barely contained.
The fast-moving fire exploded late Friday night in the town of Goleta, north of Santa Barbara. Flames quickly jumped from home to home.
When the flames raced through here, they were driven by winds gusting up to 40 miles per hour, blowing those embers through the air. You can see some of them flying now. They landed on rooftops, and there was nothing firefighters could do.
This home may be a total loss. What's the goal? Keep it from spreading?
Yeah, just try and knock it down as best we can. Try and salvage what we can. We know this is somebody's life behind us.
As fire burned through the community, more than 1,000 people were evacuated at a moment's notice. At least 20 structures burned. But Patty Driscoll stayed behind and grabbed a garden hose to try and save her home of 30 years.
When you look up here, you really can tell how close it was.
Yeah, so I was just standing right here. As far as this hose would take me, and that was it.
Hot, windy weather is fueling fires across the state. This one in San Diego Friday burned 20 homes and injured a firefighter. Governor Jerry Brown declared a state of emergency for the Klamathon fire burning near the Oregon border. It's still out of control, scorching 21,000 acres so far. One person was killed. And this fire east of Los Angeles forced 500 campers and residents to evacuate as flames closed in.
Spending billions of dollars upgrading New Zealand Air Force with planes capable of tracking submarines is necessary. That's according to the country's defence minister. The New Zealand cabinet is expected to decide which new planes will replace ageing Orions used mainly for surveillance.
Patrolling the Pacific and Southern Oceans is a core role for our defence forces. But to keep doing it, we may need to buy up to 4 replacement planes for our 50-year-old P3 Orions, the workhorse of our coastal surveillance and rescue.
It's the biggest commitment in terms of defence resources for a government in over a generation.
The replacement aircraft the Defence Minister seems most likely to recommend to Cabinet as early as tomorrow is this one, the Boeing P-8 Poseidon. It's a military surveillance plane that can also track submarines.
The fact of the matter is we have an Army, a Navy and an Air Force. They are military. They require military platforms to carry out their warlike functions.
Buying planes with combat capabilities isn't cheap.
We're talking a couple of billions and more in terms of upfront costs.
If it's really about, for example, maritime surveillance in the Pacific, you don't need these planes which are war planes.
But Mr. Mark disagrees.
We have had too many examples in the past where procurement decisions have been the wrong decisions.
Also working in the P-8's favour over cheaper alternatives is that it is already used by our key defence partners, the US and Australia.
We have a commitment and obligation, should Australia need us to go to their defence, for our defence forces to be able to operate together jointly as they have always done.
It's all about interoperability and aligning with the US.
A decision on whether to buy the planes comes at the same time as the government is under pressure to find more money for teachers and nurses. So will Kiwis balk at the cost? Ron Mark doesn't think so.
New Zealanders want to know that Kiwis, when they're placed in danger, have the right equipment to come home safely. That's what New Zealanders focus on.
Perhaps so, but that confidence could be tested, as this is only the first of $20 billion worth of defence purchases that are set to be needed over the next 15 years or so.
And to take us to Chukai Sports, Russia has crashed out of the World Cup after losing to Croatia, while England convincingly won the other quarter-final, beating Sweden 2-0. So the Lions are in the semi-finals for the first time in 28 years. That sent England fans into sporting euphoria.
Harry Maguire got his head to it. This is the stuff of dreams from the three Lions.
For the first time in almost 30 years, the English are just one win away from a football final after a convincing win against Sweden, 2-0. It sent the nation into a spin. Whether at the beach, in the pub, at the tennis in Wimbledon, even at a wedding. After 90 nail-biting minutes, total euphoria at the final whistle. These fans so ecstatic at the score, they invaded the Swedish furniture brand store IKEA.
Expectation levels are through the roof now, but you know they're doing really well.
After decades of disappointment for English football fans, you can understand today's reaction. And with a young squad, with a manager in his first major tournament in charge, fans had low expectations at the start of this tournament.
New team, young team, and they've done us proud.
It's coming on. It's coming on. It's coming on. Football is coming on.
We're enjoying it. I know the fans here are enjoying it. Fans back home, I'm sure we'll see some videos tonight of them enjoying it. So we just got to keep doing what we're doing and yeah, make the country proud.
But it appears they already are. And now just Croatia stands in the team's way of a date with football destiny.
Chukai Sports continues with all the action from Russia after these messages. Don't go away.
Chukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. The semi-finalists in the FIFA World Cup have been decided. Host Russia cruelly denied a place in the last four after suffering a heartbreaking penalty shootout loss to Croatia.
Russia went into this year's World Cup as the lowest ranked team, Croatia standing between them and a spot in their first ever semi-final. And they took the first step 30 minutes in. But while those celebrations were still going, Sochi was brought back to earth.
It's in! It's Kramaric! It's 1-1!
Neither side could convert chances to break the deadlock in regulation, resulting in a second consecutive dose of extra time for both of them.
This engaging, unput-downable Russian page-turner has yet another chapter to write.
And it was a chapter that would go down in World Cup history. A scrappy header putting Croatia on the verge of their first semi-final in 20 years.
And Fina with the header! And Croatia with the lead!
But just when the hosts looked consigned to the end of a fairy tale road, the game that kept delivering had yet another twist, thanks to Mario Fernandes. They went close to a winner deep in extra time, but ultimately penalties would decide a fourth match at this enthralling tournament. It couldn't have started worse for Russia. Croatia going ahead briefly in the shootout before the hosts' goalkeeper had a defining moment of his own. At 1-1 in penalties, it brought Russia's favourite son of the last 10 minutes to the spot, but this time Mario Fernandes crumbled.
Fernandes has dragged it horribly wide.
When Luka Modric's penalty miraculously ricocheted in, Croatia was on the cusp. And for the second time in a week, Ivan Rakitic had the chance of penalty glory.
Rakitic! And Russia dissolves into tears as Croatia's cream rises closer to the top.
Croatia, the first team to win consecutive World Cup penalty shootouts since 1990, and now just 180 minutes away from football supremacy.
Croatia will play England for a spot in the final. The last time the Lions were in the semis, Croatia didn't even exist. England making the final four after a dominant 2-0 win over Sweden.
England are through to the semi-finals of the World Cup.
This inexperienced squad, now history makers, exceeding all expectations to reach their first semi-final for a generation. Sweden the first to come out and create some chaos, but England would hold its breath as well, with the World Cup's leading goal scorer producing their first real chance.
For Harry Kane's shot!
In a rare sight, the skipper couldn't find the back of the net. An opportunity would come again though, the three Lions becoming the set-piece specialists.
Who's on the end of it? England are on the end of it! Harry Maguire's first international goal!
England kept putting on the pressure and it looked as though they were heading for a 2-0 buffer going into half-time, but it would go begging.
Well, what an opportunity there for the Manchester City striker.
24-year-old goalkeeper Jordan Pickford doing his bit at the other end, denying the Swedes 3 attempts.
And again, Pickford has come to England's rescue.
The last time England made a semi-final was Italia 90, falling short on so many occasions, but this wasn't one of them.
Oh, it's into a useful area here. It's into a very good area.
England racking up their 11th goal of the tournament. The last time they did that was more than half a century ago, where they were crowned World Cup champions.
Football at home, cricket, rugby union and NRL. That's still to come in Trukai Sports. Don't go away.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to football back home. The PNG Football Association Under-17 tournament came to a close this afternoon with Kapana crowned champions in the men's division. PMSA Orange stamped their authority in the women's division, defeating rivals PMSA Green in the finals to claim the championship trophy.
The Southern Conference PNGFA Under-17 Youth Festival saw the two finalists in the men's and women's category play their hearts out for the top prize of being crowned champions of the Southern Conference. The The women's game was a friendly rivalry between PMSA Green and PMSA Orange. PMSA Orange, however, were the better side in the match, defeating PMSA Green by 2-0. In the main game saw a heated contest between PMSA 2 in white and Kapana in green. Kapana were the first to open the scoring with a goal that proved to be the only goal in the first half of the match. PMSA 2 came back strong in the second stanza, pressing up in attack and creating opportunities up front, but couldn't find the back of the net. Meanwhile, Kapana capitalized on some poor defending and doubled their lead in the second quarter and went on to win the match by 2-0. On hand to witness and present the awards is PNGFA boss John Wesley Gonjuan, who said some of these youngsters have been earmarked for the national under-17 youth side.
After this tournament, we will do an analysis of the board conference and decide the future of this event, whether to increase the number of conference to 4 or we'll continue on with 2.
More of this on Sports Scene, Monday at 8 p.m. Shane Saroya, National EMTV Sports.
To cricket, and in the ICC T20 Women's World Cup qualifier, the CPL PNG Lowers played their first match yesterday in Amsterdam in what turned out to be a very trying opener. Their opponent and competition favourite Bangladesh won with 8 wickets and 5 overs to spare. Lowers, on the other hand, had beginning success when Pauke Siaka ousted Bangladesh's opening batswoman, but it wasn't long before the match went downhill for the PNG outfit. They ended the match at 6 for 84 after the allotted 20. Only 5 boundaries were not enough to gain advantage in a T20 match, and that is something they look to improve in their current match against the United Arab Emirates. The Royals have secured a spot in the finals for the A-grade division in the NCD Rugby Union competition. This follows their 13-point margin win over the ATW Falcons in Port Moresby this afternoon.
It was an entertaining match between the Royals and the ATW Falcons, with both teams scoring equal penalties throughout the match. The scoreboard started counting when Royals scored their first try after a short pass 10 meters away from the Falcons' try line. In the first half, much of the game was played in Falcons territory, but the Falcons gave little opportunity for Royals to cross the line. After a few mistakes, the Falcons crossed the line and scored their first try at the Royals' western side of the try line, equaling the scores to 5-all. In the second half, the match became more faster, with both teams trying to put more scores on the board. While the ATW were not at their best performance, the Royals were dominant after scoring 3 tries to become the first team to defeat the Falcons. The match ended with a 24-11 win at full time. There are 44 rugby union teams competing in the NCD Rugby Union competition.
Our competition, as of next weekend, we will be going into our finals. Basically, how we formatted our game is that it's first past the post. So in this case, whoever gets past the post, the first 4, will play against each other. And we come up with the final 2 that will make the play for the cup playoffs in all divisions. That's including the elite division, the women's division, A grade, B grade, and the under-20s.
This competition is different from the Port Moresby Union competition and has gained interests from teams from as far as Kairukuhiri in the Central Province.
Big year for us this year. We started off very, very small. Last year we were a one-day competition, using one field. This year we've grown to 46 teams. We play 2 days now. On Saturdays we go all the way till 9 in the evening, and then we just have chock-a-block Sundays as well too. So it's been a very busy year so far, and this is just the 15th season. This is just the Power Sparkop Cup that we're talking about. Obviously from here we're going to move into the finals next weekend, and so we're bringing this major program to an end in the next couple of weeks.
There will be 2 more rounds before NCD RU goes into Grand Final. Tekla Gunga, National EMTV Sports.
To tennis, three-time world champion Novak Djokovic had to battle British tennis fans at Wimbledon today. They didn't appreciate the former world number one ending the hopes of a local at the Grand Slam.
Moments after England sent Sweden crashing out of the World Cup, it seems Kyle Edmund was riding the wave of English success. Edmund keeping the party going by winning a thrilling first set, putting the Serb in danger of an early exit. But Britain's number one couldn't build on the energy around centre court. From there on, the three-time champion took control, winning the next two sets 6-3, 6-2. A fired-up Djokovic overcoming the crowd and at times controversial calls.
But that has definitely bounced twice. He's let go of his racket.
Djokovic then refocusing, finishing off with an ace to dispatch Britain's last hope from the tournament as he reached the last 16 of a major for the 44th time. A much smoother victory for world's number one Rafael Nadal, cruising past Australian teenager Alex de Minaur.
There it is. Such a rarity if he ever misses that 1-2 play.
Nadal hasn't dropped a set this tournament and was never in danger against the 19-year-old. The comprehensive 6-1, 6-2, 6-4 victory, ensuring Nadal will remain top of the ATP rankings.
Up next, the weather details for the next 24 hours. Stay tuned.
Sky Sports. True Kai Sports.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
Looking at the weather forecast for this afternoon and tonight, in the southern region mostly fine, in Port Moresby, Daru, Alotau and Popondetta, and in Kerma some brief showers. In the Momase region, in Leh and Wau, mostly fine, cloudy at times in Medang, some rain showers in Wewak and Vanimo. In the New Guinea Islands region, rain showers in Lorengau, Kokopo and Rabaul, a few showers in Kavieng, mostly fine in Kimbe and some evening showers in Buka. And in the Highlands region, rain drizzle all throughout the region in Mount Hagen, Goroka, Kundiawa, Mendi and Wabeg. Forecast for small ships for the next 24 hours. Strong wind warning current for all coastal waters of Finschhafen through Vitiaz and Dampier Straits to CSE Islands to Long Island, western end of West New Britain, including the Bismarck Sea. Waters of southern PNG, Indonesian border through Torres Strait and Daru to Kiwai Island to Kerama, to Yule Island and Hood Point, to Samari Island, East New Britain to New Ireland and Bougainville, seas of 1.5 to 2 meters. Waters of eastern and western Milne Bay Islands, Samarai Island to Cape Vogel to Finschhafen, and with Manus and its western group of islands, seas of 2 to 3 meters. Waters of Finschhafen through Vitiaz and Dampier Straits to CSE Islands to Long Island, seas of 2.5 to 3 meters. And waters of Medang to Bogia to Wewak to Aitape and Vanimo, with northern PNG Indonesian border, seas of 0.5 to 1.3 meters. Ocean forecast for PNG areas in the Coral Sea sees rather rough to southeast with southeast winds at 20 to 25 knots. And the Solomon Sea sees rough with southeast winds at 25 to 34 knots. In the Bismarck Sea, seas rough with southeast winds at 25 to 34 knots. And in the Pacific Ocean, seas slight with southeast winds at 10 to 15 knots.
Weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
And to end the news, when it does not go the right way, it's not always pretty. Here are some sporting moments of the week.
A character in the Rocky films once said, "It ain't about how hard you hit, but how hard you can get hit." Not sure this guy saw the movie.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
This also escalated quickly. American golfer Brooke Henderson, another unhappy camper.
She is running hot, to say the least, right now.
But the king of tantrums, Aussie tennis star Nick Kyrgios, got brought down a few notches at Wimbledon.
Oh, he's been called. There it is.
Yeah, that's what he has to do. He can't call it before you hit it.
Awkward point.
But no angry sports star will top Neymar's antics at the World Cup. Cue more social media ridicule.
Do it, Neymar!
From a goat to a dog. American power eater Joey Chestnut this week claiming his 11th hot dog eating competition with 74 eaten in 10 minutes. Joey didn't need any trickery to win. This guy felt he did.
That could have been embarrassing.
Speaking of athletics, how's this from the hairy javelin?
Who's underneath it? That is a sensational catch from Grant Elliott.
He was keeping his eye on the ball then, but like all of us, Elliott and others had an eye on something else this week.
What's going on? England is coming home or not?
One more thing, it's coming home.
Now recapping our main stories for tonight. The work of seafarers in Papua New Guinea honoured with a church service. Yangoru-Saussia District plans to install reliable electricity supply. And England, Croatia, France and Belgium, the 4 teams now through to the World Cup semi-finals. And that's been National EMTV News from all of the team. Pleasant viewing and good night.